The second detailers patch for Cities Skylines 2 is here, and it might be the biggest one yet. With major bug fixes, new features like the line tool, parking lot roads, cul-de-sacs, new parks and more assets, it's the perfect time to dive in. While waiting for mods to update, I'm building a beginner-friendly, realistic American city, balancing budgets, managing services and telling a bit of a story along the way. Oh, and trying to have a good time. But how good of a time we're actually gonna have here in the city of Ravensport on the wonderful Sunset Beach map is probably highly dependent on my financial management skills. Because I ticked unlock all so that we can play with all the cool features. That gives you a ton of money, so I have artificially reduced my cash balance to 250,000, which I think would be a tough start. Until I figured out I actually need a train station as well, because I just kind of want that in place from the get-go. This now leaves me with 136,000, which just made everything a lot harder, and we're probably gonna have to take a loan early on. Now we're just gonna jump straight into it by starting to build out the downtown road layout, but I'm gonna check the wind direction first, because I need that information to place my industrial port. And it seems that we are a bit unfortunate here. Most of the wind blows inlands, although there is a bit of a shift here, it seems, alongside these hills. So I figured that a good place to place our port might be right down here next to the marshes, this wonderful marsh landscape. We might even call it Marshport due to my amazing creativity. But let's jump straight into the initial road layout, and what better way to start than by using some of these wonderful new roads. So we have a ton of new parking roads that you've probably seen in the developer diary or the patch showcases that have been uploaded. Today we're gonna put them to actual use. Gonna jump into medium roads and grab one of these versions here, because I want the main street to kind of flank the main beach here and have parking on one side. Probably the side that faces inwards towards all the buildings alongside Main Street. So we're just gonna draw out a large straight segment here. Gonna follow the beach as much as possible. Completely straight road, real US approved. And just look how nice this is. Something really cool that came with the patch as well is the ability to very easily this time around add trees to, to the actual roads. So let's say we want linden trees, and I'm just gonna go for maybe mature. I'm gonna make sure this snap to roads is on, and while I can free place it, as soon as I move my cursor to a road, it automatically creates an extended sidewalk and places down the trees. Perfect. So we're just gonna do that for the stretch of what isn't going to be Concord Street, but Main Street, of course. Now, all roads have a history, and I think the length of Main Street as we currently have it will correspond pretty well to how much commercial development we'll see alongside the coastline here in Ravensport. And I kind of want a downtown that is shifted a lot towards the coastline. I think that makes sense. And I think it's going to create for a bit of an interesting look if downtown, instead of being a complete square, is a little more, a stretched thing that kind of continues alongside the beach. Anyways, to kind of symbolize this, and how Main Street, the current promenade setup with the trees and the street side parking, is very much a reflection of the commercial development. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a regular avenue here and just continue Main Street in either direction. I just want to be able to snap to a better location than currently. So I'm just going to manually click and find a spot in the center so that we have a seamless transition to this regular avenue. And I am seemingly gonna have to do the very same thing over here. Something like this. Not for too long, because we are gonna have to either branch off or create a bridge over here. Then of course I need to build the actual road layout. I like to just start with a basic 2-lane road, and then I can always upgrade it later to create one-way roads and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna select some snapping options that should help me, if I remember correctly, create a proper street grid where I don't have zones being broken. But I'm gonna click, and it worked out here. So that's always a that doesn't always work out in the first try for me. I'm sure some of you guys scratch your head when I keep making road layout mistakes and I forget what to select, or more importantly deselect in these snapping options, but I think we're off to a decent start. Now, as I mentioned, this is gonna look boring from the get-go, but with some changes to the actual types of roads and manipulating traffic directions with some one-way streets, it's going to look better, and more importantly, it's gonna look pretty realistic for a city of this scale, or any scale in the US really. While we're gonna have some row housing and medium density alongside the long stretch of downtown near the beach, we are gonna have plenty of low density single family housing, proper US style. But I'm gonna try and mix two density themes, or two zoning types rather, because now that we have the region packs, I wanna try and mix the North American low density housing theme, so that is the vanilla theme, with the UK low density housing theme. Because generally, some of these buildings, especially in the early levels, look a little more run down. So I think they might be a pretty good fit for some of the inner city low density areas. Some of the residential areas that have been hit the hardest if there's ever been times of like crime waves, or maybe white flight to the suburbs, or other issues in the city that we've seen in so many US cities. So we might even have a few empty lots. Then as we move further out into the suburbs, we get a few more bendy roads and some of the awesome new cul-de-sacs from the new patch. We'll see an increased amount of UK low density housing. These are generally just prettier houses, and they're generic enough to fit into a US suburban style. It's gonna be an interesting experiment for sure, but obviously there's gonna be no zoning if I don't provide some utilities, and this is where I'm a bit curious to see just how restricted we are with our current budget, because I'm usually flooded in money. Let's start with water. I really want to use the French water tower because there's an upgrade to it that allows it to double as a sewage plant, so that I don't have to dump poop water into the ocean. So it's 60,000, which is more than half my current cash reserve, but I'm gonna place it and I'm gonna go into debt if I have to. Now, this isn't an obvious fit in a US style build, so I kind of want to just turn it into a monument, maybe like a small park area or something like that. And we should have an all new pedestrian path we can use. So we have the regular pedestrian streets, but then looking right next to it, we now have the small pedestrian street, which is awesome. This is something I think everyone has built for themselves with the Road Builder mod. Now it's part of the vanilla game. So I'm just going to try and designate what is going to look like a small park where we can place our water tower as like the focal point in the very center of it. So we're just gonna do something like this, create a super simple layout. Maybe I can make it even more interesting. Let's try and see if the snapping here is gonna work in my favor. That seems to be the case. Then we're gonna grab the water tower, which I hope you guys can use your imagination. It can double as something else, a war monument, what do I know? Maybe a gift from France. I mean, there is a trend, tradition for that. And I'll just place it right here. We'll just take a general look. I think that could work. Anyways, this is where the magic happens. The filtration system, which adds a massive sewage treatment capacity. Obviously, it increases upkeep as well, and it's 12,000, so things are not looking good for our budget. But things can certainly get worse, because as for the electricity situation, I was hoping I could import some outside electricity, which is expensive, but it doesn't really require all that much upfront investment. but it doesn't seem like I can, so I'm gonna have to provide it on my own. I have one option. It's a wind turbine, and I mean one wind turbine, not in plural, because it's 25k. Oh man, we're getting closer and closer to calling up the bank and trying to act real nice. Fortunately, this low plain area where we kind of see the wind make a bit of a shift further inland is actually quite windy. But I kind of want to move this, you know, this wind turbine maybe a bit further away. So I'm just going to see if I can purchase a few free tiles, because I've only unlocked 6. And I think the first 9 are supposed to be free. And I do know I want an industrial port out here. So I'm going to try and grab this one, which is free. I'll grab this one, also free. And can I grab? I can actually grab this one as well. And I think I'm gonna buy the 3 of these. Now I don't actually know if there's more wind here, so this is a bit of a gamble. But as long as we can get really close to the 5 megawatts mark, I need to maximize 495. I mean, I can work with that. I can work with that. So I'm just gonna place it. It doesn't require a road connection, and I think this is new in the patch, that it doesn't complain of a lacking road connection. Because previously I think it complained of it, but it didn't actually require it. So wait, I should actually probably just get a road out here to the port before I actually connect up anything. Because I can connect to the road then. I think I'm going to grab this custom 2-way national road I've made with the road builder. It has a gravel, on either side, so it looks pretty rural. But as you guys can see, it carries water and sewage treatment underneath it, and you can add electricity to it through street lights. Can I actually click this to select that? That would be so cool. Let's enable contour lines, and there's a bit of a hilly terrain here, which I kind of want to respect for once. So I'm just gonna see if I can snake my way through the hills here and make my way safely across. And I'm spending more money. Oh my goodness, roads are expensive. Oh god. And I even want like a small elevated segment here, just because I think that would look nice. So is that gonna be more expensive to build a bridge? I don't even know. I can't see what it's gonna cost me right now. I'm just building in blind. We'll move across and then let's just lower it to the ground quickly. And then hopefully I have money enough to actually connect this. Let's see. I mean, it's gonna be a pretty ugly connection connecting directly to an avenue, but there's nothing else I think I can do. Oh no, it gave me the good old bug where if you go from another type of tool mode directly to simple curve, you don't actually get to click once and then click twice. It just creates a straight segment. Maybe it's not a bug, but I don't know. It happens to me all the time. Alright, so let's just see how this looks. I think it was worth just elevating it a bit, creating like a proper bridge. And now I need to connect up the power lines. So let's just see. We'll just do connection right there. And then it looks as if there is a direct connection all the way into town. And we're gonna have to take out a loan, guys. But I promise, the investment I am going to make with these 500k, you're going to love it. You're gonna love this. So we're gonna grab 2.3%. That's good, right? I guess that's fine. We'll see down the line. Now we're swimming in money. You guys ready for the investment? I'm gonna buy some parking lots. I need sufficient surface parking in the downtown area. Not just for functional purposes, so everyone can park their cars. There's not going to be public transportation here, at least not for a little while. I need it for the aesthetic purposes as well, because we're trying to tell a story. And Ravensport is... it's not in the best condition. It's in a resurrection period. It's getting more popular, it's getting better. But it's kind of rebounding after a couple of decades of some really bad times. And in the US, when bad times hit downtown cores, You don't try to preserve buildings, at least not from a federal point of view. You just demolish it if private initiatives can keep them standing. And you can think that's good or bad. I don't know. It's just it's a thing, and it makes for very interesting city building. So we're going to add surface parking all throughout the downtown core of Ravensport to showcase this history. And we have some new cool parking lots we can use as well from this new patch. So it's you know, perfect excuse. Like this moderate parking lot we have, which is you know, to my feeble European mind, it's not moderate. It's quite substantial. But it's basically the medium parking lot, but without all the fancy stuff and without the grassy elements. Although don't be sad, we're gonna use the medium parking lot as well. Obviously, we're just gonna place that over here, and then we're gonna place some of these modest parking lots as well, which, as the names imply, are a little smaller. Easy to just kind of fit in. And we have some cool ones with solar panels and something, but this is like fancy progressive parking. We're not gonna do any of that. That's not the plan, at least. We're just gonna do good old regular parking. I don't want to use the large one. That's probably a little too much, but the tiny one here, we can kind of use that to like further break up the urban fabric of our little town here. Maybe we could use this one as well, and then maybe just one more modest parking lot on a very, like, yeah, actually just facing the waters, something like that. Now I am gonna use a better Bulldozer to just kind of make these parking lots a little more distinctive. So if I have placed two of the same type, like right here, I'm gonna make sure to remove some of the details from one of them so that it's not as easily recognized to the other one, but that looks pretty good. Actually, one quick little thing I'm also gonna do is grab better Bulldozer and just remove the surface from a few of these lots. Let's see, we'll just go for these, and then I think we're going to just be replacing them with a different pavement surface. Yank, yank. And oh, I might have to manually do this one. So this is the area bucket tool, which is, yeah, I don't have to tell you guys, it's incredible. You just saw it in action. But of course, shapes can become a little too finicky, and then you'll just have to manually do it. Small price to pay. There you go. And I think that makes a pretty sizable difference, just changing up the textures a little. And actually, we might also just be able to use one of these fancy new ones, and then maybe just, yeah, we can just remove the solar panel elements. I'll remove the hedges as well. It looks much more generic now, so I guess we're adding a bit more parking here. So I've spent 130k on parking now. Just a fantastic investment, as you guys can see. Ha! I bought another one. Anyways, we're just about ready to get zoning and actually try and recoup some of the deficit here. But the one thing I'm just going to do before that is I'm going to add an inner city ring road. This is going to help define the boundary between the old city of Ravensport as it initially grew, and then some of the more modern suburban sprawl and maybe commercial strip malls that we'll see beyond this area. So to do this, I'm just using a 4-lane divided road. And I so want to buy this tile so that I can actually do the road layout in that direction, but that will just be completely reckless. So I'm just going to create the outline here so that I can easily buy it when I need to. And we'll just get a smooth connect. That's not smooth. There you go. And then obviously I'm gonna need to add in a few additional roads here so that there is some additional stuff to actually zone. I'm gonna use a custom road I've built with the road builder mod for a couple of these areas, which is going to be this suburban alleyway here. And as you guys can see when I place one, it's basically just a widened alley with parking on either side. And I kind of like this no sidewalk thing. which you can find in a lot of US downtowns on some of the older residential streets at the very least. And we may just break this up, make it a little more interesting as well. And then the final touch, we're gonna have a one-way layout at least up until the park here, and then we'll see if it needs any expansions in the future. And I did actually just push the ring road a little further out, so it used to run here alongside Daffodil Street, but I just added a full layer of extra blocks just to make the inner city a little bigger. Let's get to the zoning of downtown, and to start that I'm going to designate downtown, or at least the general idea of downtown. And it's going to be something like this. So we're just gonna call this, let's see, Downtown Ravensport. And this is gonna affect our zoning because I am going to use a technique where I pretty much just start by zoning commercial, low density commercial everywhere in downtown, because this is going to be the dominant zoning type in here. So this is just one way for me to kind of start. And I don't actually want anything facing the train station. So I'm gonna upgrade to a key and right click so that I can get this proper zoned. Then I'm going to start mixing in the medium density I need, because these are going to grow the tallest and they can get quite, how do I say this, quite thick if they have a large lot size. And I want to avoid that. I don't want Ravensport to be dense, but I want some remnants of different times. You know, during the 20s and 30s and 40s when the city was rapidly developing, you'd see plenty of medium density stuff in here. So if I go 3x4, for instance, or it might be 4x3, depending on how it angles itself, that's going to bring me an apartment building that isn't too big because the footprint isn't big enough. Same deal over here. If I go for a really narrow lot, it's not going to get out of hand. And if it does, I can rezone it. So I'm just gonna move ahead and try and add a bit of this here and there in some of these places. And I'm gonna have much of my medium density housing actually face the water, because I do imagine that during the heydays of the city, this would be how you would angle your building, right? I'm also gonna add in some US themed mixed housing, of course, because that is also going to kind of provide that medium density. I'm gonna prefer some corners for the development of this, because it's going to angle itself really nice, and there are plenty of corner lots within the mixed use theme. And obviously I want some of it to also face some streets back here as well. Not a lot, just a bit of stuff as well. Next up is the row housing, and I love zoning row housing because there's a lot of flexibility, since we can do one tile wide lots. So this will really help kind of break up the look of the city, but I have to be careful as well. If I were to zone here, I'm going to create a commercial lot here that is too narrow for anything to develop. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I'm gonna zone 2 so we get 2 row houses. And I think as we move over here, it makes sense to have quite a few of these poking through. Let's see, we'll just go for this, and we'll just be adding a bunch out here as well. Yoink, and then maybe a few in this part of town. That is going to break if I make any funny stuff. And then as we move a bit further back, so one street layer away from the ocean front, there still was some demand for row housing and medium density developments back here. It was just less than near the beach, right? Because obviously the real estate near the beach would be considered easier to sell, basically. Now, to make things look a little more rundown, I've actually dezoned a couple of sizable lots here in downtown, and I'm gonna fill in with some sort of pavement surface when things start develop. Just to showcase empty lots where there used to be a structure which has now been demolished, and since there isn't like a super high demand just yet, there's been no pressure from developers to actually buy it up and develop something new. We've hit play and things are starting to develop, so that should give me a pretty quick idea of whether I am hitting the right aesthetic I'm aiming for. I can already see this corner lot here acting up though, because it's going to face Manor Street instead of Main Street, but I'm gonna let it develop so we can see the actual assets and see whether it's gonna be an issue or not. Otherwise I may rezone it, but now I'm just gonna sit tight for a while, let people move in. We've now satisfied all our commercial demand, so this is about the point in time where I'm gonna grab the North American low density housing theme and actually just start kind of mixing in a few lots alongside what is designated as the downtown area. So we'll go for something like this. We'll add a housing lot here as well. Maybe we'll add one here. We'll even squeeze one into the very heart of town, just so that we have a bit of a gradual transition and we don't switch, dramatically to just having a low density housing. I may also add some commercial activity alongside the main roads here, which is something I find very realistic to work with. But I am going to start zoning low density because I think the demand is going to continue to just kind of rebound ever so little. And we're gonna go for narrow to width lots here primarily. And I am gonna make some of them a little shorter than their full capacity, just so we get some variety in the buildings we're seeing. Maybe leave a bit of backspace in here so that we can add some trees as well. That is usually a pretty good idea. And I'm not gonna zone the entire block for some of these. We're gonna have some empty lots as well, where I'm just gonna add some bushes and some greenery. Once again, just to reflect a city that has had, some troubled decades. It's rebounding, but it's definitely not there yet. I'm gonna add a tiny bit of detailing to the central park, or I think we're just gonna call it Center Square even. Yeah, my creativity at work again. And after I've just added a tiny bit of detailing, what we're gonna do is we are gonna jump over to the industrial port, because as you guys can probably see by now, I have a ton of industrial demand. And I'm really not going to be able to grow the city much more if I don't start supplying some industrial workplaces. They generally don't require a very high level of education, which is great because I don't have an education department just yet. So we're jumping to that, but like I said, a tiny bit of detailing at first. Let's not snap two roads with these oaks here. We'll just kind of, I want to place these without Anarchy actually as much as possible. Don't want to overuse mods for this build. I want you to be able to kind of follow the timeline and do something slightly similar in vanilla if you want to at least. Just a few oaks, although it may make sense to add some trees to like the sides of these, right? So if we go for birch, how big is the small birch? What about the sapling? We're going for a sapling, I think, and I'm just going to add that to the inside of all the roads that are facing the park. And it's so nice that you can just right click now to remove and click to add. And then I guess we can still add like actual grass, right? Yeah, so we're gonna add that as well. And that is it for the park detailing, for now at least. Let's move all the way out here and build the swamp port. Sorry, marsh port is what we're gonna call it. So for the port, I think we're going to kick off with a bit of terraforming. Seems like at 60 meters is where we have the water level, so going just a couple of meters above that at 63. I'm gonna right click and grab that, and then we're just gonna paint a little with the terraforming tool here, just kind of flatten this area out a bit. I don't want to make this port in this area too big, because I'll have industry all along the coastline on this side of this small river here for a more like continuous industrial look. So I don't want to overdo this segment at all. So I'm just going to do something like this, and then I have just the road to create the key walls I want. This one-way key, it is basically the narrowest one-way alleyway I could create with the road builder mod, or very close to it at least. And it doesn't look pretty when you don't add it or upgrade it rather to contain a key wall. But when you do and you terraform and move the water back in, it actually looks pretty good. So we're just gonna make a very, very simple construction here, something like that. And it's probably only these 3 segments that needs to be key walled, which means I can upgrade this segment to a different one. So what I would like to do is grab another version of the alleyway I've created for this purpose. Let's see if I can actually find it amongst all my custom roads. Yeah, it's this very wide alley. I like this one for industrial areas or port areas because it provides a lot of space for trucks, you know, 18-wheelers, for them to make the necessary turns that they need to conduct to be able to deliver the cargo properly and navigate this area in and out. So we're just gonna create a quick little road layout here that probably got a little too random for my liking. I need to be able to zone plenty of stuff here as well so that it's a profitable area. That doesn't mean we won't be adding surface parking lots. Of course we will, because it's going to heighten the, you know, overall aesthetics. But it does just mean that I want some sort of sensible road layout. And I think this is a decent start. I'm just gonna grab the pavement path here, I think, and I'll just make a couple of like odd piers that just kind of stick out. Maybe we'll actually just go for this one. Doesn't have any function or anything. It can help with like a port vibe, I find. So we've got this sort of road layout. Now we need a proper connection to the national road. And I probably prefer something that looks a little complex, maybe a little overbuilt. If this was built during the highway or interstate construction craze during the 1960s in the US, then they would have spent plenty of money building this. So we're gonna make some interesting layout. I'm gonna grab the 2-lane one-way highway, and I'll create a segment running like this. I'll create one that runs sort of like this. Then we're gonna enable snapping, grab the continuous tool and move out a bit, and we'll find the 90-degree angle. There you go. And we'll find another 90-degree angle, and then we're gonna connect these up because I probably want this road to continue this way out here. But first, I'm going to grab the complex curve tool and disable snapping. This should allow me full control. So we'll click once, twice, and try and make a seamless connection. And up here, we'll start from this point and we'll go for 180. We'll click once and twice and try to get this connection as well. Yeah, it's all right. Before I continue complicating the road layout, I should probably move the freight rail tracks in here. Now this is gonna be a proper waste of money because they're not gonna have any functionality unless I take this city very, very far and get an actual freight line going, which I don't think we have the money for, so I don't think that's gonna be the case. But aesthetically, it just adds so much character to industrial areas in particular. So I am going to find some tracks here. The 4-line rail track, that's what it's called, that I have created in the road builder so that I can just create like my own small custom rail yard here at the port. And then hopefully I can get this connection right without causing any issues with the weird road layout we have here. But once again, we're going to use the complex tool, disable snapping. I'll find 180. We'll have to redo this so that it looks a little more natural, I think. So we'll enable snapping. We'll start from here and we'll move up 180 and we'll click and move out here and click and then try and connect. Actually, we can't do that. Ooh, I'm going to create a mess here. Note to self, road layout, cargo rail layout first. And road layout second, but I think we might just manage that. I'll add in a connection or two just to kind of tie this area up. This also adds a bit of extra zonable space to this industrial area, which is very good. And then I know I said I would work on the port now, but actually we are. What I'm gonna say is I'm going to bring the freight rail tracks down here as well and create an additional rail yard, because it's just gonna look so much cooler. Even though we're gonna blow the bank doing so. Anyways, we have our little port, or this section of the port rather, out here. So you guys guessed it, the next great investment is going to be some surface parking lots. So yeah, once again, this is solely something I do for aesthetic purposes, because I really like how it looks and the amount of character it adds to an area. But obviously, functionally speaking, it's completely unnecessary. Even though they do have an actual function in game, it wouldn't be necessary for an area like this at all. So just keep that in mind. Don't do as I do if you're just trying to create the most successful city area. And just as we did in downtown, I am going to just personalize these parking lots a little bit. I'm gonna remove the surface of some of them, and we're just gonna paint them over with a different surface entirely. And now we just need a large power line to supply the whole area with power. I'm going for this larger version. You get that if you elevate by 10. You can see the difference here. I don't know if everybody knows that, but I didn't until not too long ago actually. And then we're just gonna have that follow the main road here, and we're just gonna do a connection to the, let's see, can I bridge that out here? I can. So that's connected up to our windmill, which hopefully still is at, it's still at decent capacity, so that's good. And I complicated things further by adding an additional little train track. I just love trains, man. Anyways, after much anticipation, we're going full send it with the zoning here. See how it all turns out. And now that things are starting to develop, we can initiate the magic trick and turn it into an actual port. It's not much of a magic trick, but it makes all the preparations worth it, I should say. So terraforming, we'll grab the level of the seabed here. I'm gonna make the brush pretty small so that I can do a bit of precision work. And then we're just gonna bring that real close into this tiny lane, or sorry, alley road that I call my key road basically. And I hope you guys can see the general idea now behind creating that in Road Builder. And of course, we'll add in the classic cargo ship. Now I promise we won't go heavy with the detailing out here, because that is not our focus right now, but just getting this in place I think is going to do wonders. Gonna use move it to just elevate the whole thing. To actually, let's probably go a little higher. Doesn't seem to carry all that much cargo right now, and then we'll select it and we'll lock the elevation. Just added a district with the district tool, so we have an overview and almost 400 jobs out here, which is really great because we have 500 residents. And this has brought back our low density residential demand as well as some low density office demand. Yeah, as I said, detailing will be swift. So, better bulldozer tool, let's get rid of a few of these chimneys. I might just keep these for this major factory. But otherwise I want to get rid of the remaining ones. I don't want all those smokestacks. It looks a little odd. Then we'll grab some surfaces, just the vanilla surfaces, enabling the area bucket, and just fill in some of the blanks out here to create a real industrial vibe, create a bit of empty space where there may have been, you know, other industrial businesses in the past, but maybe, you know, industry isn't kicking all that much out here anymore. So, you know, some stuff will decline. It will be outsourced to countries where manufacturing, like working hours, are cheaper. Labor is cheaper is what I'm desperately trying to say here. Labor is cheaper. Manufacturing working hours. Well, I guess it kind of means the same. But this tool is just wonderful for these quick detailing purposes. And you know, it's definitely not perfect, but it's doing the job, and it's kind of creating the visual effect I want, given the amount of effort and time it takes to do it, which of course is very, very little. So let's just get a bit of this done, and maybe we'll fill in a few gaps here as well as this one. Yank. And then I don't mind that we have a bit of greenery to kind of, you know, encapsulate the port. I think that is fairly realistic actually, and it looks really great as well. So we'll add some of these big oak trees here. And maybe an industrial prop or two. So this almost might look like it's one combined factory, one unit, and a few bushes and some shrubs. And that's for a low detail, fully ploppable approach to a port. This is a pretty successful start. Very happy with how that turned out. Anyways, we've got a ton of demand, so it's yeah, it's imperative that I start zoning like crazy now. Let's start with some of these inner city blocks. I want the obviously I want houses to face a certain direction, so I'm gonna start omitting the corners here so that I can more specifically zone them in a certain way, although I think we'll see a small 2-byte, yeah. Anyways, I'll allow it. It's hard to ensure that it won't happen anyways, so we'll just have to live with it, I guess. And I am going to continue keeping a few empty lots at play, although this block here is maybe just a little too empty. I mean, I did say Ravensport was turning around, not that it's completely in the gutter. Not anymore, at least. So a bit of extra zoning. I did actually eat up into that that low density demand rather quickly, which may prompt a bit of additional medium density row housing at some of these places in here, where we could realistically densify the city a bit without changing the characteristics of it too much. So for instance here, where we have some empty commercial zoning, why not turn that into a bit of row housing instead? Kind of want to do this area as well. I think we are. And let's see if there's any other candidates. I kind of want a commercial lot here, so I'll wait. I'll wait that one out. Although we could have 3 row houses here, certainly, as well as one additional one here. And since we do have plenty of office demand, I'm gonna see how it looks if I turn some of the commercial lots here into offices instead. Hopefully some of them can actually just kind of double as low density commercial, and in that case everything's great. Otherwise we're just gonna get rid of them. We're still just zoning away, and while we aren't exactly making a profit, we actually aren't that far off, which is a bit of a surprise. But I mean, the population has doubled in a very short time, and we are bringing in plenty of tax revenue from our port facilities as well. So I guess it makes sense when you look at it from that way. And I hope you guys can start to see the overall aesthetic I'm going for. You know, we've got some empty overgrown lots here. I'll be adding some bushes and shrubs to make it look a little more realistic. And generally, the houses are, you know, of pretty low quality. They're pretty small. They're pretty cheaply built. So it's quite a rundown area. These blocks of low density houses that are the closest to downtown, which may or may not, you know, have experienced crime waves and other issues of urban decay in the past. And then my plan, of course, is that especially as we move beyond the ring road that Pearl Street makes up, we'll start to see some of the nicer suburbs. So the city is kind of like a microcosmos of what actually happened to a lot of American cities. And I kind of want to try something here as well. So this commercial just didn't want to grow, or maybe I demolished it. I don't know. So just adding like a blank surface here. A big blank piece of nothing is going to add a lot of character, especially if we like add, you know, if we add like a junk pile or a couple of junk piles even. Not necessarily junk cars, but if we add a few props to this area, we might actually add one junk car that's just kind of burned out back here. Don't know if I have any trash props. Like I said, many of my mods aren't enabled, but just having that empty lot where there used to be something and demand just haven't kicked in. Nothing's being developed just yet. We are gonna take it slow with providing services just so we don't blow our budget, but the unreliable healthcare coverage is really detracting from our average happiness, and you can really see the issue here. And while that may be pretty realistic, then I also want the city to eventually prosper and start functioning. So it's a good thing we have this small medical clinic. We could grab the modern medical clinic as well, which is a bit more of a substantial building actually. So I think I might actually just use that instead, just to kind of future-proof a bit. I don't have the money for it, but it's not the first bad decision I'm making here, is it? So let's just make a road that follows alongside of the train tracks. We'll bring it all the... oh, straight, please. We'll bring it all the way down here. Probably need to do a bit of an upgrade here as well, just to make this a bit more of a substantial road. And then we'll just add a, let's see, we'll add a less substantial road behind it, maybe a one-lane alley with some parking. Like that. And then we'll just place it in here and we'll kind of dedicate it, we'll dedicate this block to it. Or at least parts of it. It's not all that big though. Okay. I think I'm just gonna place it at this angle, and then does it have any upgrades? It does. Probably gonna add this one actually. Just for the looks of it. Not a great financial decision, but there you have it. I think it needs a bit more parking. That is really not going to cut it. And we might go for the good old... actually, we might go for one of these new ones. They do look pretty cool. Let's say the canopy covered parking lot. Sure, I'll add that. But I'm not gonna make it simple. I'm going to add, let's see, it's not, oh, it's 9,000. Why is parking so expensive? I'll pause the game, I'll add one here, and I'll add one that is kind of angled at a 90-degree angle to it, right here. And then we are going to, let's see, we'll upgrade this to a lane, and we'll bring the actual official vanilla one-way alley that we've just gotten. We'll bring that in, move that in front. That is, I mean, that is hopefully gonna work. Oh, it's because I haven't connected it to anything. Okay, we can work with this, I think. Symbol curve, enable snapping, find the right point. Connect that up and connect this up. There you go. And I think we're just gonna... oh, I can't actually change the color scheme of these, even though there are different colors, the roofing. Oh well. A few paths, and I think that's gonna be it for the detailing. Or maybe we should even just... we might even just wanna kind of expand some of the existing surfaces here so that it looks like a path. And then we're gonna bring in an invisible pedestrian path. We'll be adding some nice, well manicured grass. I want to say of course, because that is so often the case with buildings like these. Even if you find like hospital buildings or institutions in super rundown areas, you can be sure that their actual lot is going to be very well kept and well maintained. Yoink, and then just a few of the oaks. Good old. And we now have the Ravensport Medical Clinic. We also have no power. Boy, let's see. Consumption is 5. Can I just bump the budget a bit? Oh, we're actually making a bit of money due to the fees. Ooh, let me just try and bump this to 150% and see how much we can squeeze out of that. Gave us like 1 extra megawatt, so it's not gonna be too long before we need to expand our electrical grid. And we're definitely turning healthcare funding down. Oh man, that's expensive. Pretty realistic. We've got plenty of residential demand, but the unemployment rate is climbing dangerously high, and we only have about 60 open positions currently. So I probably need to get going with the second part of the port, or at least the industrial district here near the shoreline, which may not have actual port facilities, but is anyway still connected to the main industrial area. So let's just flatten the terrain a little bit out here. It's slightly hilly, and I don't want to respect the topography too much. I mean, mankind is great at just dominating nature when we need to or want to in the name of profit. So I am not going to move all the way to the shoreline. We're just going to clear an area just like this. And then just as with the other area, I do want plenty of rail here. Once again, just for aesthetics, it's expensive, it's stupid, don't do this. It looks nice. You should actually do it. Let's make parts of the road network first though. And I've got an issue with Anarchy right now, I can see. Okay, so I'm gonna enable Anarchy so I can do what I want to do. Cheating a bit. Actually, I've used Anarchy plenty in this video. It's a wonderful mod, why not? I think this area will have a slightly bigger rail yard than the other part of the port. So I'm just gonna disable snapping and try to drag some of these real close. Although it's, whoa, that is going to be a crazy crossing across the... I mean, I guess if it works, that's all right. I don't want it to clip into each other, but I am going to use move it to probably just bring these tracks a little closer together. But before I do that, I just want to ensure that I can actually just connect them up properly to a single track. So we'll just grab the regular two-way track here and make sure that we can get a proper connection going to the track out here. So we are gonna have to cross... Let's see how this is going to work. We are going to have to cross this busy industrial road, but I guess dependent on how much cargo traffic you would expect here, that's going to be fine. And then we're going to cut straight through this hillside, and I'm going to try and see if I can achieve a nice connection here that doesn't look odd. And I think that is pretty much as good as it's going to get. Anyways, now I can grab these two nodes and move this really close. I can even kind of bring the catenaries together so they look like they're a single one. And I should be able to do the same with this track here, which is going to create what pretty much looks like a proper industrial rail yard here. Obviously, I'll need to make sure that the road layout is rebuilt. We are going to continue using these wide alleys to just connect, and then we probably need a crossing as well, but we can make like a minor one with an alley, one that is rarely used, maybe just like that. And that leaves quite a bit of space for additional zoning here to kind of surround the terrain tracks. Obviously, you guys have probably guessed it, we are going to need, we're gonna need a bit of parking here as well. So I'll just be adding a few of the regulars, a few of those we've been using before. Spending money on this, yeah, that's I kind of want to add one more. Actually, I'll wait. We need to zone the industrial, and then we'll see how this looks. I kind of just need the tax revenue right now, actually, and I need to provide the extra jobs. We are having a bit of a job crisis. I'll leave a few empty lots though, so that we can add in a surface and make it look a little nicer. I'm gonna zone alongside the national road I have here. I don't actually know how well that's gonna work. I haven't really zoned at it before, so I don't know if we're gonna have any weird texture issues or whatnot, but we'll see. Looks like it's gonna align just fine. So I'm going to make the entrance for the major trucks or the massive trucks a little easier. We're going to, let's see, snapping isn't gonna work. Gonna have to kind of freeform this, add this extra lane. And then we're just going to disable all snapping and add in a quick and easy connection to this point here. I'm sure the truckers are gonna thank me for that one. Down here, I don't really, actually, we do have the space to do something similar. I think if I add an additional node, at least, I'm just gonna, let's see, double click here. That is going to give me, actually, I need an additional node. Double click here as well. That didn't work. It removed the first one I created. Okay, we're gonna do something different. We're just going to place this. Then we're going to free connect this up. And then we're going to downgrade this segment here to, let's see, the national road I've actually used, of course. Can I snap now? No. It's all wonky now, basically. And it seems I will also have to just flip the direction of this one like that. Our sole wind turbine cannot stand alone anymore, so we are just gonna give him a friend. Very much a friend in need. Let's see. Maybe this looks like a pretty good spot. Just make sure that is connected up to the grid by an underground power line. And let's see, that should help. Plenty of capacity now. And bleeding money, of course, so we're gonna move in here and just reduce the budget quite a bit. With all this new industry, we are seeing a significant reduction in the unemployment rate, which is great, but we're still bleeding money, and the main expense I have is my healthcare system. And I had to just check why, and it's because we have a staff of 24 people, so wages alone is the majority of the total cost of our little medical clinic. But it's also going to be expensive to downsize and place this one instead. And I don't actually know how many employees this one will have, because that isn't listed, and I really think it should be. But yeah, I think we need to embark on a massive zoning mission now. So I think we're gonna branch off from Sunnyside Street here and just get a bunch of zoning done, some more low density, maybe a bit more row housing here alongside the beach, but generally more zoning is, I need more taxpayers to move in, and now. And yeah. This can't wait, that's for sure. So we'll get some nice long boring streets going so that I can really get some good zoning going. Although I'm not gonna make them full-sized blocks. I don't mind these to be a little smaller. And then I think this road here can have some of the rare curviness we don't see much here in Ravensport, at least not with what we've built so far of the city, which admittedly is mainly the older part. And then we will do a complex curve. Only because I like the Oh wait, that's not, that is the one I want to use actually. I like the added complexity. I am going to add a bit of extra complexity right here and maybe right here. Then we'll just move in and get rid of all these small crosswalks because that does look kind of odd. I'm adding some power lines only for aesthetic purposes, and then we're ready to start zoning. And I'm pretty curious to see just how much zoning we can actually get done out here. It's a pretty sizable grid we've created. All right, let's go ham. It's very nice to get the city growing like that, don't get me wrong, but look at our financial situation. Oh my, why didn't I? Oh, all right, I should have lowered that a long time ago because we don't have a rail yard, we don't have any train station activity. Actually, can I shut this off? A deactivated building does not produce anything or requires only minute and thus consumes only 10% of its original normal upkeep. 600 a month. Oh man, that's yeah. That's a lesson for the future, I should say. So I guess, I mean, this helps. I don't think it brings us in the positive. So, you know, I think we gotta take another loan, guys. We're gonna pause here. Like, this is a big decision. I'm already paying a premium for the 2.3% interest rate that we have on our still outstanding $500,000. And I'm gonna grab, oh man, I'm gonna grab another 500k. Oh, we are rich. The life cycle of a city. But I think I need to take this money and do some serious investments. So, you know, we need to think long term now. What can I do to turn a profit? Major expansion. And I need additional services. This may be like counterintuitive because that's obviously going to cost more money. But I also need this to be a almost desirable place to live so that people will actually move in. So let's get our very first school placed, and I just need whatever has the lowest upkeep. And it seems to be the small elementary school, which, you know, by the name of it makes a lot of sense. We got some space here in an awkwardly shaped lot, so why not get it placed here and kind of utilize the space for like a playground or a bit of landscaping, something like that. I am going to add a parking lot. I do this primarily for realism purposes. It's not because we necessarily need it, but we are trying to build something fairly realistic here, so I think it makes a lot of sense. And then we'll use these small narrow pathways made with the road builder mod to just do a very, very simple set of connections here. And I think I should place down the playground as well, because I mean, it does have some extra upkeep, but it also does provide a bonus, right, of some sort. We have a small playground and an urban pocket park. I think we're just gonna place the small playground here. Then maybe even there's like a dog park, I think, as well, right? A dog park right here, yeah. So we're making this a bit of a nice little place, but that is, you know, that should give some citywide bonuses, +2 outdoor recreation. I don't know what that means strictly in the terms, in the sense of dollars. I would like to know how much extra tax revenue am I gonna earn by placing these services? How many more people can I attract? Unfortunately, that's a little hard to tell, so we're reinvesting in the city now, which feels like the right thing to do, fortunately. Let's do London Plains here, single trees, just to kind of mix up the type of trees I'm using. I'll probably add a few oaks as well, because I cannot help myself. It's definitely my favorite tree in game. Although that actually looks pretty good. So, now that we have a school, it's time to really get some expansion going. Half the town seems to be waiting for a hearse, so let's get some death care in place. And I think I am actually going to use a custom cemetery from the PDX mods, but I think upkeep wise and the initial cost is pretty comparable to the UK region pack church, and this cemetery is just too big and too expensive, so I'm happy to have a bit of extra flexibility here. So let's just add a cemetery out here alongside Pearl Street. It's almost a perfect fit. Yeah. Move out. Don't be so dramatic. Slight bit of detailing, that's a pretty good fit. And let's just say this is the Ravensport Cemetery. Or rather, is this... what is actually north here? I'm not quite sure, but I should actually add some more districts so that I can kind of, give the city more character. So currently we just have the center square, the park, as well as downtown Ravensport, and I feel that's maybe a little lazy on my behalf. So I'll just add a few extra districts and maybe come up with some better names than the vanilla game is providing us. We'll make a big one out here. As well as this industrial area. So I think I'm gonna call this North Market. And this one could just be Pinewood. I guess that's fine. I mean, the classic would be Oakwood, but that sounds like such a nice posh. Actually, let's go for Oakwood. It's more fitting given the, tree types I'm using here. It just sounds like a really posh, nice area. And real life Oakwood is rich. And you can almost kind of see it like some pretty small houses and lots of empty lots here. Anyways, Rosewood Crest. I think Rosewood is probably gonna be just fine. That includes the hospital as well as the school. And this one is part of downtown, and I'm just gonna add an area here as well. Not that it's developed yet, but it will be eventually. Palmer Glade. I'll call it Palmas. I'm going to creatively name this Yardville. Yeah. And then I think we're going to be expanding this area right now because unemployment is rising steadily as we're adding almost 500 new people across the Rosewood zoning. So yeah, now that it is called Yardville officially, let's add an additional yard because it just looks so nice. Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. I think it adds so much character to an industrial area if you manage to just add, just add in like a small rail yard. And I do actually have some props so that we can detail this up if we want. I have lowered our water and sewage budget to 60%. I should have done that much earlier. And then let's see as far as the school goes. How many students do we have currently? All right, that's right. I'm just reducing the efficiency by reducing the budget. I'm not actually just reducing the amount of employees and how many students can attend the school, which I think is a bit unfortunate. I would like to be able to reduce that to save money instead of just making the efficiency much worse. Because realistically, the school is, I mean, I could save some money by lowering this, but if the school is not very efficient by lowering the budget, that's going to hurt, you know, the overall development of the city. So I don't even know if it's a good financial decision to lower the budget. And speaking of our financial situation, a car has burned down here, reminding me that we have no fire station coverage. So we're just one fire away from having a devastating event here. So I'm gonna have to invest some money into a fire station. And let's see, 120k, 125, 125, 120. All right, so it doesn't look like there's a super smart financial decision here. So I think I'm gonna go for the German region pack firehouse, because it can kind of double as a beautiful old American themed building. I feel so, at least. So maybe we should place it at a corner where we can even get rid of a parking lot. Or maybe I can I just place it on top of this parking lot? I guess I could with Anarchy. I am going to place it right here. I think that fits in reasonably and it provides the coverage we need. We're going to lower the budget for our fire and rescue to about 70%. It's a bit of a chance to take, but I need the money. And then we're gonna do the good old squeeze a bit more taxes out of just about everyone. Because I'm still having a way too big of a deficit. Now, since we have a ton of residential demand, I might want to do a bit of like low cost or even public housing. And I am actually going to manually place this with the Find It mod, because this is like a single developer built area that I want to be uniform and follow the very same style. So that's pretty important to me. I'm gonna go for some medium density residential, and I might actually see if there's something in the UK pack that is going to fit our needs. So we've got, if I search for medium, it seems like I get everything I need. I do. And then I don't want these to be too big, but like this would be, if not a perfect fit, then pretty close. We even have some versions that have on-street, or sorry, surface level parking. So a couple of different versions of these might just be exactly what we need. I'm just gonna check everything. Yeah, we're definitely gonna use those. So there's a 5 by 5 with parking, and there's a 5 by 3 without parking. So if I play my cards a little clever here, then maybe we can make like an asymmetrical setup where every second one faces the opposite street and offers the parking. Let's see how that is going to work. Something like this, and then we grab the non-parking versions, and they are going to be closer to the road. I think that works fairly well. I'll be using the better Bulldozer just to get rid of the hedges or any walls here. Just to create like one open space where we can have a few paths, and then just paint the whole thing with grass. Actually, we're gonna go for a well manicured grass. And then some pathways. Nothing like a bit of grey public housing to make everyone feel happy and alive. This should do wonders for the overall population count though, because these buildings contain a ton of people. So I think for roleplay purposes, I am going to turn it into its own little district. And they're gonna be called the, let's see, Rosewood Houses. And I think we'll be adding another one of these areas up here in North Market as well. So let's see, I'll get rid of all the buildings on this block here. And once again, we have a few different versions here, some with surface parking and some without, which is perfect. So these that have it, I'll just align those to the small lane right here. And I'll just, let's see, how many can I add? 3, it seems. And they can be kind of offset a little bit as well. Although this one needs to just be squeezed in there. Very nice. And then we have the other version without any parking that we can then add. Actually, can I add like a corner version and kind of splice these together? Probably not. We'll just try and add a couple of these as well. I think we'll just keep the fences or the hedges as well, and just add in a few trees here. And this time we'll be adding some elders. Yet another wind turbine is added to keep up with the growing demand, which I just can't afford. Here in Palmas, I think we're gonna try and zone with the low density waterfront housing from the US theme. Not quite sure how it's going to actually work, if they are going to look a little too nice compared to the other houses, but then again I would say Palmer's location as a suburb is actually quite nice. It's right by the waterfront, so you have very easy access to some beautiful recreational areas. So yeah, I think it would make sense for this area to look quite nice. So we'll see how it actually looks when all of this develops. Might have to move in and remove a few props or whatnot. And we are so close to turning a profit. Oh, at least we were. So just a little bit more zoning. You know, maybe a few medium density houses out here. I think that would make sense in the heydays of Ravensport for some medium density to be developed out here to really like enjoy the awesome views. So I'm just gonna get a bit of that in place. I'm gonna try and use some of the, you know, some of the medium density from the UK pack once more. See how that actually pans out. Maybe even a single high density building from the UK pack. And just gonna mix that in with some row housing as well. I imagine this is a place where there's still some pretty healthy row housing. This is where you would purchase like an old row house that might need a few renovations, but if you do commit the time to renovate it, then yeah, the location kind of speaks for itself, right? Obviously, it's not gonna be too good to be true, so yeah, let's get a big parking lot placed as well, just to kind of remind ourselves what city we actually are in. Not turn things too nice, you know? But otherwise, I think this is gonna be a pretty nice area, this side of the train tracks, so to speak. And just as I thought we were nearing a place of profit making, It seems like my water facility is overloaded and I have a pretty severe crime wave just sweeping through Ravensport, especially the more poor areas of the inner city here. It makes sense I don't have any police station in place, so I am going to first have to up my water budget, which is going to further eat into my possibility of getting a bit of profit, and I'm gonna have to place a police station. So we'll just be rerouting this segment of Lafayette Street, I think, so that we can get a bit of space here for a police station. And let's see. The German one is the cheapest one, and it has a cheaper upkeep as well, but it's 90,000. Oh my goodness, I might have to take another loan. Oh, this is so nerve-wracking. I wonder if this one will fit like aesthetically into the city, because it kind of looks like a mansion, you know. I'm gonna try and add it, and then we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I guess that could work. I might even be able to like recolor the roof, make that kind of fit into the slightly more bland color palette I have for the rest of Ravensport. Let's just get a road connected here, and we'll add one of these little oddities here just because it makes things more complex. And then something I like to do, which I've done with the other ones like these as well, is I'll just rename them to a little dot so that you can't really see it. I did that over here as well in Rosewood. But yeah, I expect some patrol cars to get on duty immediately, and my deficit is growing substantially. I am going to have to move into police and administration, and we'll cut police funding as much as we possibly can. Hopefully they're still going to be able to solve some of the crimes and investigate some crime scenes, but tough times here in Ravensport. We just gotta keep zoning. Zoning for survival. We need more suburban sprawl to subsidize the suburban sprawl that we've already built, because we can't afford proper service coverage for the suburban sprawl we've already built. It feels so very, very realistic. Oh boy. And we're turning a profit. Would you look at that? Oh my, oh my. We'll see how long this lasts. Oh no, come on. We're still in the green. And we're in the red again. Now we have a pretty steady profit, but I do think it's about time we get this ring road to actually connect the entirety of the city, because there's like a very weird split going on currently. Unfortunately, this will require a bit of demolition of some of the houses here, but they should regrow immediately into new ones. So it shouldn't be the worst, and then we can actually get the connection I need here between the two parts of the city. And I think now we are finally going to try and move carefully into the more modern suburban sprawl, where I'll be trying to use the UK-themed houses for these more bendy roads, and I'll be using the awesome new cul-de-sacs. It's been a long time coming, but you know, I guess I have to just take everything much more slowly when playing with you know, such a focus on economy. So let's move in and grab some, let's see, maybe just some small cul-de-sacs for some of these. We could use a medium out here, maybe a medium here as well, and even a medium right there. And oh, you can even add, that looks pretty nice as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this will actually blend in, or won't blend in, with the other zoning styles that we've used. But there's really only one way to find out, and that's to get this whole area developed and then assess how it looks. And while that's growing and we still have some very, very healthy medium density demand, let's just get that added in as well. Something like that, and then we'll add in a few paths in between. And you know, some modern progressive urban planners might say, wait a minute, this almost looks like a green belt to separate the slightly better off from the slightly less well off people. I don't know what you're talking about. No idea at all. If there's something we can do to potentially make this UK pack mix in a little better with the rest of the city, that would be changing the colors of the roofs. Especially these more strikingly red ones. If we just make that a lot darker, something like this, and then we grab this tool, then just getting rid of those really sharp contrasts is probably just gonna help a lot. And Ravensport is broke once more. But there's a way to fix that. We're just going to grab another loan. So I'm going to pause and then we're gonna see if we can turn things around now. We have most services covered. We don't really have room for expansion, so the really hurtful part is going to buy additional tiles to expand the city. That's really not gonna be any fun. But we are going to borrow an additional 500,000 and try to turn things around now. Pretty much no demand. Tax levels are too high as they are. So I think what we're gonna do is we are gonna really go for it this time around. We're gonna Hail Mary this. We're gonna lower the tax rate significantly. This blew a massive hole in what was a slight deficit, which is now a massive deficit. Then we are going to purchase at least, let's see, I'm gonna buy, how much are these? They are 100k for both. So I think I might just buy this one, and then I'm gonna see if I can make a, if I can sort of aesthetically actually tie the city in and make a profit as well, because things are looking bad now. So let's see. Maybe I'll make like a big forest here or something if I have the money for it. Don't worry, I'm not gonna plant a ton of forests currently because that's probably not gonna be the best approach. But I do need a proper ring road to just continue around this new area. So we're just going to very simply branch off from this area here, and then we'll just move through the... Actually, I need to be careful. I need space for zoning. This is actually like legitimately hard, guys. I'm very curious to see if I can actually end this video and the small but pretty pretty wild story of Ravensport on a high note and actually turn a profit. I'm gonna cheat here and just connect that. Apologies in advance. And then, of course, the big question is also whether I can sort of tie this out or tie this together. So let's see how I can make this look. If we grab, actually, I am probably going to use maybe this one. And then I'm just going to free place it so the transition isn't too rough. And then let's see, this might look odd, but there's nothing like a complex intersection to make everyone stay suck. And then we're just gonna bring this road up here as well. And we'll make an upgrade here. We'll make a couple of upgrades actually, that's probably fitting. Utilize some of these new roads here just to make everything look a little more substantial. And then we'll use move it to just kind of bring this back a little bit. That looks weird and cool all at the same time. And now we have like a general outline of Ravensport, which is going to help kind of restrict how we develop it. But it also leaves a lot of space for new residential development, maybe in the style of some of this this newer suburban sprawl that we've built over here. So to kind of mark that transition, we are just going to grab a regular 2-lane road. And we're just gonna, I think we're just gonna cut it off here actually. We'll make these blocks a little smaller. That is going to add, you know, more variety, so it's not necessarily bad from a visual point of view. Can I make a crazy connection here? Seems like I can. So we will. And then we'll just connect this up. So this is like the extent of the older suburbs of Ravensport, and actually it moved much farther north than I had initially anticipated. So I guess the city just kind of continued growing. That didn't work, so we'll just do a regular one here. And then this is going to be more modern suburban sprawl. So we'll use the very same road that I've used for the modern stuff over in, what's it called? Rosewood. So I'll just grab this and get going. Now it kind of goes without saying that I am really gunning for the tax breaks to be what is necessary for things to turn around here in Ravensport. If the tax breaks don't help incentivize a lot of additional demand for businesses, for residential communities, then I've got a real proper issue. Because then I don't really know how to recover from this. And I think, you know, realistically, I just have a lot of expenses that you wouldn't have if you were to build like a city where you try a little harder to just make money. So it's definitely because we've also added some very realistic problems to the city that we're in a bit of a pickle, I guess you could say. And I'm even trying to make this look like modern suburban communities, which once again, it doesn't really maximize the zoning potential of this area. Dangerous business. Okay, so this is a start at least. Let's go ahead and grab some of the medium cul-de-sacs, so that hopefully we can get plenty of buildings added to each of these. That does actually help a little bit with some of the zoning. And of course the UK style zoning all around out here. And then we're just gonna cut it off right around this point, I think. And we'll just continue with our regular US style zoning out here. Now, I also have a ton of high density residential demand, but it's probably not so much the high density towers as much as it's just a need for low rent housing, which is also unfortunately classified as high density. So it's kind of hard to figure out what you actually need. But I think we should add some low rent housing because we don't really have any of that. We have some medium density housing that kind of looks like that type of housing, but in reality, it really isn't that type of housing. So I might add some high density. Sorry, what am I saying? I might add some low density. No, wait, low rent. Some low rent housing units to the area around the train station or next to the train station. So I'm gonna upgrade this road here to this new one with parking, and then I think we'll be adding we'll just add some trees to one side of it. It's gonna look a little wide, which I mean is unfortunate, but if we add some, please let me add some major oaks here like that, then I mean I guess that it's gonna look all right. It's gonna kind of cover it up a little bit, and this gives us the ability to add some proper low rent housing right next to the train station. So let's see, there's this the French themed stuff, which looks fairly generic. We could actually add a bunch of this, but I am going to see if I can just find some of the vanilla stuff at first, because that's probably gonna fit in a little better. So I mean, these towers, they're not pretty by any means at all. But they may just be what I want. They may just be what I want. They're just so bland. So yeah, I'm going to be placing a bunch of these. And then I think we might even use one of these all new, super cool looking roundabouts to just make the traffic flow here a little more manageable. Because we see a bit of a queue here, and it's probably not gonna get any better. So a little upgrade to a few road segments is hopefully going to help with this issue. And in hindsight, while the tax revenue would be better, I probably just went a little too big with these buildings for the current scale of Ravensport. Yeah, I know this is not the best idea given our financial situation, but I do want things to, to fit scale-wise. And yeah, I mean, if we go bankrupt with a ton of debt, then that's how it is. I mean, that's going to make for a fun and interesting story of the city of Ravensport as well. Right? Right? I hope you guys agree at least. We're going to go for a super bland gray color, and I think this looks much better to scale with the rest of the city. It doesn't tower over the tallest buildings in the downtown either. I'm even adding a bit of cheeky detailing with my borrowed money, so nobody is gonna tell the bank about this. They would have a proper fit. But we have some empty space here near the train station, and you can't actually access this space if you just play vanilla without having Anarchy, because it's kind of reserved for a potential upgrade you can add. You see this space here. So yeah, once again, I'm using Anarchy just to make things look a little more interesting, because I'm not planning on doing like major upgrades to the train station. It isn't even functional. Let's see, Lake Shore, and we have Flower Heights up here. This is Victoria Terrace, which I guess is fine. And then I just expanded Oakwood to cover this empty space. And then we need to call these low rent houses something. So we'll call them the Woodland, not estates. I don't think that's used all that much in the US. Woodland Row. So as soon as I hit play, I can hopefully get rid of the -2 for high taxes. Unreliable healthcare coverage. I mean, I'm gonna take a bit of a gamble here as well and bump that up to 70, no 80. That is, it is incredibly expensive to have this small hospital or clinic here, but we're gonna hit play and see what happens. Hopefully there are definitely some changes to the demand situation. So it seems like The low rent housing hit a pretty soft spot, but now we have an increase in industrial and office demand as well, and we have plenty of space out here at least for some sort of industrial or office expansion. Let's see. Actually, we don't have all that much space. Now that I think about it, we have pretty good space here for just a bunch of new industry, of course, which we can add a tiny bit of detailing to. And I guess we can kind of cut into the hills here if we are being a little cheeky. So I'll just kind of see where the contour lines aren't too dramatic, and then we'll just add in a bit of industry there and any open zoning spots as well. I think we can have a facility here as well, and then having some alongside the highway here, or the national road rather, would probably be a good fit as well. And then we could get our very first proper office park going out here near Palmas. And let's just see. I think I want to use one of these parking alleys here. They look pretty cool. So I'll just add one of them, and then I'll grab the one-way alley and just connect up to the existing road network. I'm gonna add a key to this one so that zoning faces the alley here, and we'll get a proper office park going. The industrial demand is still super high, so let's establish a bit more industry, and we'll do it right up here where the low rent housing is. Because if you guys recall, the wind direction is we won't be able to develop here in the future, but we can't even afford the upkeep of the tile, I think. So that's not really the main concern here. I'm just gonna use a small alley this time around to get plenty of space for these buildings. Actually, I should probably branch out from about here so that I can... No, I should use the wider one so that there's room for the trucks. Yeah, this one. And we'll just try and branch out here. Hopefully perfect grids. Not quite, but I guess close enough. I'm really trying to maximize the zoning space now. And then we will do just a bit of detailing so that it hopefully looks all right as well. That is pretty good. Let's see. I'll leave this space empty, I think, because that's very close to residential developments, but otherwise I am going to add a key wall to probably just this entire segment here to get space for more industry. And then as you guys can probably see, we're zoning some row housing on some of the empty lots here, which is gonna create a really nice effect, as you guys can hopefully see, where there's a bit more of a taper to the density levels so that we don't have a super stark contrast between row and mixed and medium density and then the low density out here. I don't mind that contrast, and it can be very realistic, but I also really enjoy this look where we have some row housing in place as well. And then for the super dense industrial area up here, I am going to be very, very clear on getting rid of all the chimneys. I imagine that an industrial area in this location would primarily be very light manufacturing, you know, maybe some warehouse units as well. Certainly no super polluting stuff. None of that out here. And then it's not the main focus right now, but a bit of detailing is probably gonna go a very long way. So I'll just be adding in some quick surfaces with the Surface Painter mod, which makes everything so easy. And then we'll be adding a few trees to like kind of, you know, create a bit of a barrier between the industrial area and some of the more residential areas. And we are actually currently making money. Let's savor this moment. Oh. Oh man. Anyways, happiness has increased. Unreliable internet service is a bit of a complaint. So I don't know. I probably shouldn't prioritize it, but we do have a spot here, which I guess could fit this tower perfectly. I don't really know what else to place here, so let's just get that added. I mean, if people are gonna become actual happy here in Ravensport, then that's gonna be a nice little surprise. The area out here is very, very close to downtown, so I just want to kind of complete these roads, you know, continue them so they hit the arterial or the ring road here, and then I want to get some row housing into these spots here. I think that would be very, very fitting for this location, and we do have the demand as well. I might even do one. Let's see, I'm gonna do a mixed use on this corner lot here, and then I might do one medium density building, and then we're just gonna add some row housing, and there's gonna be some empty lots in between. I think that's gonna look really nice. And then as we move a little further outwards, it's going to transition, of course, to lower density developments. And we're out of power again. I just placed a windmill. Really? Yeah, really. Oh boy. We'll add one more again, I guess. I mean, I'm not exactly getting the full effect of these either, but I kind of want to place them on like a row here. I think that looks all right. They don't look amazing, but it looks all right. Speeding it up, it seems like that solves the issue. I feel like we're starting to swim in money, and taxes are still really low, and even just a 1% increase across the board would probably really skyrocket our profits. I even have some low density commercial demand again, and I haven't had that for the longest time. So we can use some of the demand to add a bit of commercial alongside some of the quote unquote main streets that kind of move north here, which is so cool because that's really going to just going to look really nice, I think. I'm even gonna be cheeky enough to just kind of prioritize a bit of that zoning just so I can add some of it to these streets here. But this is nice. It seems like we're in a very, very good spot now. I honestly, I was having doubts there, and I may be like saying too much now, but I think we're in the clear. We might even need to purchase another tile just to see if we can get a little more development. Okay, I kind of overestimated the amount of commercial demand I had, I guess, but I can switch a bit of this out with some low density offices. I mean, I think that's probably gonna look okay as well. And then we can continue the theme with some row housing alongside some of these quote unquote main streets. Let's push our luck, purchase a few more tiles and do some more development. I want to start with this tile here because I kind of want to expand this industrial district north because we have so much demand, and we are starting to see a rise in unemployment even though residential demand is super high as well. So just by adding in even more industry up here and just really making this a cool industrial area. Whoops, that was wrong. There you go. Actually, let's just snap and go in a, let's see, we'll just make this a very, very straight segment, just like that. And then just connect straight into this. And let's see, we used the good old wide alleyway for our industrial areas. We might even, wait a minute. Yeah, we're doing more rail yard stuff. It's too fun not to do that. Once again. So there's going to be industrial rail yards all over the city. It looks so cool and it's so much fun to do. I hope you guys agree. Otherwise, I guess this isn't really the build for you if you don't like to have these rail segments absolutely everywhere. We'll just do a easy crossing here and a somewhat smooth connection. And here I think we're gonna use the complex curve tool to get a good connection as well. And it really doesn't have to be more than this. Even this is going to look cool. Bring these a little closer together, of course, so that it's a proper rail yard. Get this bush out of the way. And then just a few more roads. Grabbing the alleyway again. Hopefully I can snap perfectly, get a lot of zoning space out here. And zoning space very close to the rail yard as well, which is always really, really nice. And let's just do a connection like this, and we'll connect this up as well. Get rid of a tree or two. We can even afford a bit of parking now, which is something that I didn't really dare to spend money on in the on this side of the road, because I was so desperate to see if I could actually get us out of this of the trouble we are in. But it does seem like we are starting to see the light here. There we go. No more parking. And then just plenty of industrial stuff added. I'm lacking some power again, but I think this time around I am going to try and just add this upgrade to all of these. Because that should actually increase the production of each of them by like 50%. At least if the... oh yeah, that of course requires the wind conditions to actually allow it. But it did seem to help, at least for the first couple of ones. We now have a bit of excess power again. Actually a pretty good amount. So that seemed to work out pretty well. But I mean, most of these are at full efficiency. There are some of these that are kind of behind this hillside that don't receive quite as much wind, but it's pretty close. So I'm going to let this industrial area grow. We'll do a bit of detailing as well. And then I think I might just raise taxes by 1% across the board. And then I'm just going to let the simulation run for a little while so that we can get a bit more of a capital reserve. We really don't have all that much money right now, but I just kind of want to see where the city settles if we kind of slow down and just let the simulation run. with that bit of wonderful detailing finishing all up, I think that concludes the story of Ravensport. We are making a very hefty profit, so I could just let the game run for hours now and we'd probably make back all the money we need to pay back our loans, because most of our service coverage is actually pretty good. I did buy some additional tiles just to add a bit more suburban sprawl, because I thought that the way the city kind of ended out here looked a little weird. That's also why I added this little bay here, just to add like a geographical feature that would kind of explain this road here, although it could now go in a different direction since we do have this tile. Oh well. Additionally, I expanded Flower Heights a little, and I built the neighborhood of Evergreen, also some pretty modern suburban sprawl. And this almost ties Yardville and Marshport into the actual city. There is still a bit of a gap here between the industry and the rest of the city. But since there's a river here and a few islands, I don't really mind. I think from afar, it looks like one single city. I even think that if we saved up money enough to place down a post office, we would probably have a city with maximum happiness. So I think that's a wrap. We turned around the economy and it was pretty fun for me to play like this. It's been a while since I've tried to, zone this much and just balance the budget. And I made some very obvious mistakes in the beginning, such as not turning off the train station, which I think we can just turn off now. No, sorry, turn on. Yeah, that didn't really change much. And I didn't really adjust my service budgets the way I probably should have. So I might have taken on a little more debt than we had to, but I think this added to the fun, and I was generally a little nervous whether we could actually turn the city around there for a moment. But slicing taxes and just buying up some new tiles and zoning a bunch of stuff to really just kickstart the economy again, that actually did seem to work. So I had fun, although it was a slightly different project for me. I hope you enjoyed it as well. You might have learned something, or maybe you're just able to fall asleep to this video, which I guess is nice as well. I want to thank you guys so much for the support and all the kind comments and all that good stuff. I hope to see you on the next one. Goodbye.
I should let go.